So all of a sudden I get sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. I show up in prison to serve my sentence. And now I'm living in a 12 by 12 room with three men I don't know, living out of a 2 by 5 locker
Yeah.
with three green outfits and 5 pairs of underpants.
Yeah.
Talk about a culture shock.
Yeah. No kidding.
Uh, However, you know, I could honestly say today, though, I wouldn't change it for anything.
Mike, I appreciate you sharing your story. That's not an easy thing to do. I guess from my standpoint, and you maybe getting to this, it interests me how everybody has their ups and downs, and yours maybe are more extreme than other people. But I'm interested to how do you get from where you were in the 12 by 12 to where you are today, and you know, how have some of those fundamentals, I'm wondering if the fundamentals that you used before to start your business are still applying, and you know, so how do you go from picking yourself up off the ground to starting up again, you know?
So great question. So I get to prison and I think my life is over. I go, you know, I'm waking up in the morning wondering how the hell did I wind up here and what did I do? I thought my life was over. And there were a couple guys around me that were very supportive and just kind of make me get out of bed in the morning and make me get going and do some other things. I was there about 17 days thinking my life was over. And then all of a sudden my wife let me know she was going to divorce me and leave me. And then my life was really over. And at that point I was like totally devastated. So about 6 weeks into the prison, I walk into the gym one day and I'm about 35 pounds overweight. Certainly don't feel good about myself, hate my life and hate where I'm at. And this guy walks up to me and here's what he said. He said, "Don't let these people beat you. All they want to do is take everything from you. They can take your apartments, they can take your houses, they can take your car, they can take your money, and they can turn your family inside out. But what they can't take is what you're made of. They can't take what's inside of you, who you are, what you've done, what you've accomplished, and what you know. You can get that 10 years back."
Who told you that? Who told you that?
Just another inmate.
Just another inmate, right? And see,
Right.
That's what I love, right? Like sometimes these magical words come from like these sources that you don't expect, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he said, "Come to this gym every day, come to my class every day, start working out with me and you'll start feeling better." And I did. I started going to the gym. I started working out. I started losing weight. I started feeling better. I went to college. I got a bachelor's degree in theology. I wrote 2 books while I was gone, one on multifamily investing, one on property management. I wrote an ethics study course. How ironic, right? A federal prisoner writing an ethics course and teaching ethics in prison. I taught real estate and ethics for 5 years. I taught Bible study for 5 years. I was on an outreach program, went into the community, told my story about 40 times to local area businesses and college students. And I befriended a professor at the University of Minnesota, and he and I co-authored a paper together that we had published earlier this year in the Business Journal of Ethics on an ethics case study. And it gets taught today at the college level for forensic accounting classes and sales and marketing classes. So, you know, I did a lot. So as a result of that, I came home with the intention of building a coaching and training platform that I could teach people how to build a multifamily or an investment real estate business, how to scale it methodically without growing too fast, but more importantly, how to live a balanced lifestyle. Because I teach people all the stuff in the box, how to get from nowhere to somewhere, how to get from 0 to 100 or 1,000 units under management or whatever you want to do. What I really teach people is outside of the box. Who do you have to become to get there? Who do you have to become to do that? See, we all have to change personally in order to grow professionally. And so what do we need to do to get there? You know, hey, listen, it's okay to have a goal to make $1 million, but what are you going to do with it when you get it? and who do you become along the way?
How did you get those investors in the first place? Was it just, how do you bring in that private equity? Is it, the relationships you built over the years, or it was just a certain method that everyone takes to get that kind of investing?
So when I started raising money and meeting investors, I put a little ad in the newspaper that said, real estate investors wanted. And my phone rang off the hook for about 7 days. And I raised $200,000 on this $600,000 apartment deal I was doing. Wow. It was crazy. And from there, it just spiraled out of control. I put some seminars on every week in my office, had new people come in that I built out of my database. I went back then, Donald Trump was doing these real estate investment seminars around the country. And he only did it for like 2 years, but he did 5 events a year. He did it in Dallas, New York, LA, Chicago, and somewhere else. I can't remember, but we did LA, Dallas, and Chicago. And I picked up probably 2,000 leads from people. And I'm a relationship guy. I love to build relationships with people. And so I called people and talked to them. I go have lunch, I have coffee. This was long before Zoom or social media, right? This is, pre any of that. So I'm an old guy, old school guy. I pick the telephone up and I'll call you and ask you if you're interested in investing, if you're interested in, passive or active investing. So
anyone else have a story like that? Or can you figure a point in your life where you've had to do that and kind of figure out who you are, change what you're doing, and take a different approach to life?
Well, yeah, that's what happened to me. I mean, my life fell apart. It's the idea that when something happens, you don't turn it in. It's not a loss. It's just another opportunity. And your mind has to work to see where are the opportunities, recognize this is an opportunity in everything that happens. Because I tell my students, there's no mistakes. It's just new lessons learned. So if you can kind of internalize that and say, well, this is just another thing I have to get done. What's my plan? And then work your plan.
I got something I could add. Prior to me starting my, marketing career, I worked 11 years at Kohler Company as a manufacturing employee. And when there was a day when they were like, hey, you no longer need to work here anymore, that was the day I learned I had a skill that nobody wanted. And that was very impactful for me, especially someone who had a young family at the time. And, the fact that I was working there, I was making a really good living, right? But I was a manufacturing person that did one task, and I couldn't take that task with me and make money somewhere else. So learning this new skill where I went and retrained myself, kind of back to Kyle's example of learning new skills. So now the lesson learned for me was, anything you do in life, and this is what I try to tell my kids, is take a skill that you can take with you wherever you need to go. So if your career or your aspirations take you to Hawaii, cool, you got a skill that you can use there to earn some income. So I'm very grateful for how I've turned my life around and where I'm at now. But that's really the thing for me. That totally drives me, and I do try to project that to others as something to keep top of mind.
So on those 3 examples, Mike's example, John, thanks for jumping in and sharing. Timmy, in all 3 circumstances, right? Like Mike, you said this, you weren't paying attention to the details and the things happening around you. John, you could probably say the same thing, right? Like taken by surprise when they said, hey, we don't need you back here anymore, right? Timmy, you said, somebody just told me after 27 years that she's out, right? So what lessons do we have for people in this room, either with existing businesses or people trying to grow a business? Can you guys share? How do you pay attention? What should you do? How do you pay attention to those details? Mike, you had 138 people working for you. How do you keep control of that, right? I always wonder about these guys like Jeff Bezos. I mean, we got a law firm here. We have what, Ryan? 12 people. And I'm like, oh man, how am I going to do all this? How do I supervise? How do you supervise 138 people? How do you pay attention to details?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I talk about not paying attention to the details and the things that happen around me, I didn't listen to people around me. Quick story, I never told my wife about business. So I never talked about, hey, I would tell some great things. You're like, hey, we closed another apartment deal today, or I raised some more money, or never talked to her about the details. Just she worried too much and just wanted to keep that out of the, off the kitchen table, right? So 2008, I'm trying to close an apartment deal, and I'm in Cincinnati at the title company, and I can't get funding from my office. And so my partner finally gets on the phone. It's like 10 to 5 on a Wednesday night. And he says, I don't know how to tell you this. Well, listen, when you're waiting for $500,000 and your partner tells you, I don't know how to tell you this, what do you think goes through your mind, And he said he moved money from the escrow account to the business account, thought he could have the money put back by then. And I went crazy. It's I said, hey, before we ever went into business, you knew that you don't do those types of things. This goes back to what Tim said earlier, that he kind of alluded to the fact that there was some, listen, I got ganged up on, and I'll tell that part of the story too. So anyhow, my partner moves this money, moves it back. I dry closed this deal, which means I signed all the paperwork, didn't fund it, said I'll have it funded by Tuesday, go back to Chicago. Over the weekend, I raise enough money to finish funding this deal and get it closed by Tuesday. But meantime, on Friday night, my wife and I go to dinner with my partner and his wife. And remember, I don't talk to her about business. She has no idea what happened on Wednesday. On the way home, she says, I don't trust him. And what do I do as a good husband? I say, hey, honey, don't worry about it. I got this.
Yeah.
And I didn't have anything.
Yeah.
But what I should have said was, tell me more about that. What do you mean? So when somebody around you says, hey, I don't like what's going on, or pay attention to this, pay attention to it. Because a week later, my attorney said to me, he goes, hey, I don't know what's going on over there, but I don't like some of the things your partner's doing. I think you need to watch out, because I don't think he's got your best interest. I said, oh, Bob, don't worry about it. I got this. You know what? I didn't have it. And so that was the first incident, right? And there were incidents after that, but we don't pay attention. We get so focused and our blinders are on, and we move so fast sometimes. I always tell people, hey, think things through, right? Think things through to the end. When you're faced with a situation, or you're going to make a choice, think it through to the end. What does it mean tomorrow and next week if you do this right now?
For the folks in the room, why should they get excited about multifamily real estate? And how could you help people like me or anyone else that's interested in that sort of game? What do you do to help us?
So there's a couple of ways you can invest. One is you can do it yourself, and the other way is to passively invest. I always like to say that if you're a W-2 employee collecting a paycheck, exchanging time for money, you have the opportunity to invest that money you earn passively into these types of real estate deals. What's interesting is that somebody else runs it, manages it, handles it, and you get a report and you can say whether you like it or not. So when you look at these deals, there's ways to vet the sponsors. There's ways to look at the deal to make sure that you're making a smart choice. I see a lot of people who come from the space of having a W-2 job where they invest in real estate like this, and then all of a sudden they start doing their own deals because they like it. Here's a big thing though, economies of scale. So you kind of alluded to it when you said, hey, one roof, one furnace, right? I was in the residential space for a long time, Kyle. And what I did was I owned a lot of residential properties, but I had 100 roofs, 100 furnaces, hot water heaters, parking, garages, garage door openers, washers and dryer. But if I own 100 units, I probably only have 5 roofs, 5 boilers. It really condenses it down. And if I have to go collect rent on 100 places versus collecting rent in one place for 100 units, it makes a big difference. So the time commitment is so much easier